Okay, in the interest of time, may I first give the word to the Grängesberg Mining Company.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me here. We have an amazing opportunity. Grängesberg mine, we closed it down in the 1980s, but now we've found iron ore and REEs, and we should be happy about this opportunity. We have a new ore deposit, and we have evidence of iron and REEs that we are dependent on. All your phones, all your computers, we need it. And iron, traditional Sweden, we've mined it for so many years. It's important for our economy, and we are one of the greatest providers of it in the European Union. And due to the REEs, we have a population growth. We will need it. More people are becoming middle class, more phones, more screens. REEs are essential. And Grängesberg, we have the technology and we have the knowledge to mine it. So it's important for us to do it, because if we don't do it, we will be dependent on importing it from China or elsewhere, and we cannot assure this essential human rights being accepted and prospered in these countries. In Sweden, we have legislation and we have human rights very important in our ways of doing it. So, in order, since we are dependent on it, we can do it here, not just get something else from over there. We also, Ludvika has been a mining city for so long, so we have the infrastructure already in place. We don't need to build new railroads, no roads, and everything. So it's just going to start, so it will be cheaper investment for us to do. Furthermore, the green energy part. We need to get out of fossil fuel. So in Kiruna, we all know LKAB. They are working on making a carbon-free iron mining by digging it putting it in the ground and creating water as the emissions. We can do this as well. It will lower our carbon emission in mining in general. Do we have anything else we would like to say? And we can cancel out the transport of China. I want to emphasize that. We can produce it here, locally produced, not imported, where we can make sure that it's mined in a good, environmentally friendly way, to the extent we can, instead of just buying something we don't know what it's made of from China or elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your views and opinions. Is there any questions we have for the Grängesberg Mining Company? Please.
Have you considered whether or not it will be an open pit mine or an underground mine?
We will probably start off as an open pit, but we do not know for sure where these rocks are. So maybe it will be a shaft mining in the end, because we're gonna do it the way that we have the vein. We're gonna exploit it until as long as we have it.
Thank you.
Please.
I was going to say a local person, but you did convince this group how that will benefit our communities, because you are just saying that it will benefit like the country, but not as communities. What would be like the social responsibility to this?
Well, first of all, we will absolutely bring jobs back to Ludvika. And also, it's a way to kind of bring the community together. Consider in Kiruna, where they see the LKAB mine as mama. Bring back one thing that we in this town can stand together. We have common goal. We have this mine. It's our culture.
I think your slogan could be "Bring back pride to Grängesberg."
No, it's making Ludvika great again.
Great again, yay!
Exactly.
No, that was a very valid point, and you answered very good. Do we have one more question for the mining company? Wow, okay, let's start. I think you raised your arm first.
So you pointed out that you already have the technology to extract rare earth, but there is not a long history of extracting rare earth in Sweden, so I wonder how do you have it?
Well, the rare earth elements that we have is apatite, and for tens of years the Älvkarleby mine have been piling it up. So they have the knowledge, so we will use our friendly Swedish friends, communicate, and they will help us. And if that's not enough, then we'll have to look at other successful places. Taking the necessary knowledge there could be a way forward.
One
Yes.
minute left.
Pardon?
1 minute left.
Okay, there was 2 more questions. Please.
So the Swedish Forest Agency would like to ask how you make sure that the environmental impact is low due to exaggerated mining activity.
As I said, we will try to do it lower our emission as much as possible, as the way they're doing up in Kiruna. But then again, we have to consider that, I mean, why should our forest in Dalarna be more valuable than forest in Africa or in China? And we have the laws and everything in place in Sweden, so it's better to mine here than to just not know, because we are dependent on these minerals and rare earth elements. So where we can exploit them here within our current legislation, than to just import it when we don't know what sort of legislation they're done there. So we take the responsibility.
Does not really answer my question.
But I mean, like, we will try, but what we will try our best to limit the environmental impact, of course.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm getting in trouble, but quick question.
Okay.
I want to ask you, because the mining will cause the deforestation, how do you solve this kind of problem? Because I think the wildlife is also important for Sweden.
Yeah, well, this mine was shut down in 1980, so it's already in place. So I do not think that we will have to deforestate that much. In that side, I mean, for 30 years, I don't think the biodiversity has come back that much, and if it has, it will come back again.
But how do you address the issues, concerns of the local inhabitants? Because obviously there are
Is it a concern though?
concerns of the local residents, because mining can cause a lot of pollution, wastage, and also maybe diseases can be spread. So
Yeah, but either we do it here, or they have to do it over there. So I mean, in Sweden, I would say that we have pretty good laws in place to kind of limit how much we can do, and we have this idea of spending 10% of all the profits into reforestation or environmental good projects.
Thank you very much. I think we have to move on. My question would be immediately, what if you don't make any profit? Anyway, you can think about it. Can I ask Back Forest to take the stand and give us their opinion now?
Yeah. Hello, this is Val Troll. We're the R&D interested organization that has, as part of our members, the team from up there, but we also work together with the university up north in Luleå. So we are trying to develop inventive ways of mining that would make it more profitable, but also with less negative effects to the environment. So a lot of the questions asked up there should probably have been asked to us, but since they're already done and over with, we're okay with that as well. Anyway, what we're looking to do is to find more energy efficient ways of mining, making them more, the percentage of hits that we actually get to be increased compared to what we have today. We're working with known researchers and scientists, and they get to benefit from these mines that we are, our members are involved with. We also try to have active discussion with the states, the state, I should say, the Swedish state, to develop further contributions to society as a whole. And now my colleague is taking over, I guess. Okay, she'll take the Q&A. And that's basically what we're doing.
Thank you very much, Bad Forest. Do we have questions for Bad Forest?
Yes, we're okay.
Is everybody convinced about their mission and aims? Where's Greenpeace? What do you think about their point of view? They basically just said they want more people to be pro-mining. How do you feel about that?
As Greenpeace representatives, we have, well, the importance of Greenpeace is really to take care of the earth. So I guess that you all know that we are against mining, and we still are. And so we're looking for other solutions. We would like to see how you will implement all the things you said and present it to see how you take care of the environment, because we will not, we are more pro, like, finding other solutions as Greenpeace solutions. So, as one of the values of Greenpeace is to be against mining, so we would like to have more discussions with you to see how you intend to go further with all the work. Even though it might, you might find new works for people and employ a lot of people, which will be economically beneficial. I think that Greenpeace thinks and argues that all the consequences due to startup or this reopening the mining would cause more problems in form of change in the economic system, in the ecosystem, change in the aquaculture, loss of biodiversity, something that we have and really are proud of here in Sweden.
Well, we are interested in the same things. However, we do see that to date, there is no way that we can be without the products that comes from mining. So therefore, we're trying to make them as effective, as efficient, and as environmentally friendly as possible. But we're gladly interested in getting any input that could help us get even further on our way there.
So let me just take a stand for Greenpeace here for a second. So, but if there is a rare earth deposit found in Alaska in 2 years from now, and it will swamp the market, prices for rare earth will drop, what are you going to do with this half-open mine that has no profit?
Well, in our case, we would still learn a lot.
You would.
So the university researchers would still benefit from what we have done up until then, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think there might be a bigger issue up in Alaska, to be honest, with the mining there, because what we've seen so far is that Sweden as a whole has a fairly good reputation when it comes to trying to think of the environment a lot more than the Americans have until now.
Well spoken. So, I'm not sure I buy it personally, but well spoken. So, okay, I think we need to move on. Yes. Let's see who else we have. We kind of had Greenpeace. Would you like to continue?
Yes. Yes.
So, Greenpeace, hammer in.
We represent Greenpeace, and I feel like not a big deal. The mining will cause we probably will lose our biodiversity, and erosion is also a problem, and also will destroy the ecosystem. And as we know, the pollution for the water, it will cause some disease for the residents. So I think that we think it's a like very serious problem because they destroy like wildlife and also the people. So yeah.
Also, there are some protected species and birds back in the area, like the hawk owl.
The hog owl, very good.
So, and these species are obviously protected under the law. I think it's one thing.
So we'll open it.
I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
like to
please.
add something. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though we heard the statements of the mining company
Valuable.
and the Bergfors company, and there is true, we are very proud of representing Greenpeace here in Sweden because we do know that here in Sweden we do take a lot of value in human rights, which would lead that Bergfors would have to pay a lot of money because we have very high standards here in Sweden. So if they will open a mine in a few years, as he said, in Alaska, if we will say that will happen, if we would argue that will happen in 2 years, and we will have very expensive work here in Sweden that we will not know if it would be profitable. Okay. And then, so we would like to come with new solutions. Like instead of getting all that money, maybe Bergfors could open a school, a startup with new green tech solutions. And as my colleague at Greenpeace said, we found an endangered species, the hawk owl, that could be that on with this opening of the mining, it could cause disruption in the ecosystem, which could cause other damages. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
So Greenpeace, you are an international organization and not a Swedish organization. Therefore, shouldn't you also be concerned about the destruction of environment and human lives in other places where
That was
Greenpeace
exactly my
exists?
question. Well done.
Yes, you know that we are not a Swedish, Greenpeace is an international organization, but we do have an office here in Sweden that works with questions more local. So we do care about others, but in this situation, we are more concerned about this, not more concerned, but we are taking this particular situation about the mining in
Okay, but my question was about the fact that we must have mines because we need elements. And so if you do not have this mine in Sweden, it means that the mine has to be elsewhere, which means that you're exporting all of your responsibility and costs to some other place, often, like Pella mentioned, a place that has less infrastructure to deal with environmental runoff or human rights violations. Shouldn't Sweden take responsibility for the tools they want to have?
Yes, you're very right in your argument. We have these discussions at the moment at Greenpeace because we need to find new ways because we know that people are using a lot of minerals and we know that we cannot just take responsibility and let it to other countries as you said, but we are in finding new solutions.
And also like we think we probably can use that money for like find alternative resource for maybe making cell phone because it's more sustainable way and like it's more long term purpose.
Let me just step out of my role as a moderator here for a second, and I'm going to slip into my role as petrology professor. So one problem you're going to face is that even if we look at Chinese production and global production of rare earth, neither of them will be enough. We actually are in need of finding more. Your cell phone, at least mine, the iPhone, has 0.25 grams of dysprosium. You might have never heard about dysprosium. It's one of these funny rare elements. So we are really desperate as a global market for these things. And while I'm absolutely sympathetic to Greenpeace views, we need to get this material. Otherwise, our development into green technologies like solar panels, like wind kind of power, this will all halt. So there's an issue. So I just stepped back into my moderator role. So how do you feel about that?
Greenpeace at the moment are facing very huge problems in trying to see if we should go from our values that is against mining in finding new solutions. But
That's a good thing. I can see how you're looking at the problem from different angles. It's very good. More questions?
Yeah, a possible solution to that would be that you have a better recycling system of electronics and actually reuse materials instead of that they are thrown away. So investments could go into that instead of building a new mine, for example.
Absolutely true. And again, I'm going to be Professor Troll for a second. The problem with that is that we haven't used many of these rare earth elements in the past. So many of our televisions or whatever, they don't actually have loads of it. So even if we get really good at recycling, we are short, considerably short of producing enough from recycling. And don't forget, recycling costs a lot of energy. You need to smelter these things, and usually in mobile phones, it's connected to all sorts of other things, plastics and stuff like that. It's dirty. Recycling is actually dirty. So, let's step back to the moderator. But no, the question is valid for Greenpeace. How do you respond to this?
We have really considered recycling, but as said, we do know that it's not sufficient, so that's why we have always taken that into account, but we know that's not the only solution of 100% and that's no solution because it's not enough.
But no, recycling is important just as a general point, and it needs to be stressed that full effort is given to it, full attention is given to it. However, I worry that even then it might not be enough. We are really, as a global society, we're really desperate for these things. The EU wouldn't give out kind of recommendations for us to find it if there wouldn't be a need for it. That's the crucial aspect here. But the clock reminds me that.
You should stop covering up Greenpeace there.
Well, they're very interesting. So, who else do we have? The Forest Agency, since we're talking about the natural kind of phenomena. Can we have the Forestry Agency to give us their point of view, please?
Yes, we are the Swedish Forest Agency, and we see some advantages and disadvantages for opening the new mine in Grängesberg. I first start with the disadvantages. We see that it can lead to soil erosion, negative impacts on the biodiversity, and losing our forest land. The losing of forest land can lead to decrease of the climate change because less trees will lead to less carbon sequestration. Yes, and I think it's important that we protect our ecosystem services.
All right, but we can also see some opportunities for all of us. So we acknowledge that there is a necessity for REEs for creating renewable energy sources will, in the long-term view, will lead to more sustainability. There will also be a positive impact on the economy and on the local job market because we know that the mine will probably provide some more new jobs for the locals living in that area. And as there is already a mining infrastructure in place, there will be very low investment costs in this mine, so it's a good opportunity to widen the actual mine that is already in place.
But we also see the need for cooperation here, so we would like to make a cooperation with you because we see the loss of our forest land in this area, and we would need a compensation for that, especially in the face of climate change for carbon sequestration, as my colleague said here. And we need you to invest in valuable habitats. So as Greenpeace pointed out, there's a lot of biodiversity in this area, and that needs to be compensated for. And we also require an environmental impact assessment because you were really shady on the environmental impact of your mining activities. You were not really clear if you knew about what your mining would encompass. So we need you to not pollute the groundwater or to lower the groundwater table so that the forest around the area is not in danger. Because if you lower the groundwater too much, the forest could die out in large areas as well. So we require an environmental impact assessment for that one. Yes, I would like to hand over to you.
Okay, so now to agency, if you work together with us, you would probably have the backup from a governmental side, so we would highly recommend you to work with us. Yes. And last but not least, we also want to help you with the resilience and recuperation of the forest afterwards. So when all the mining activities are done, we would really like to talk about a resilience plan with you to recover all the environmental impacts done by the mining activities so that we can recultivate the forests and the biodiversity.
That was very professional, I thought. So, what does the mining company has to say to that?
Well,
I think your arms are pretty twisted now, aren't they?
We thank you for the invitation to collaborate with you. We will definitely look into a deeper collaboration. Absolutely.
Yes, you know well done. Is there any questions for the Forestry Agency? Maybe Greenpeace has an opinion, or please.
But if you would have to vote for or against the mining, what would you vote?
We have discussed this and we see the negative consequences of obviously. And we have thought about the compensation plan obviously, and we see the big opportunities that lies in renewable energies for our future. So we're for the mining because we need the rare earth, and we see that the mining company has already taken into account the environmental consequences, and we through our collaboration it will be possible to have the least impact.
Good stuff. Yes, you're getting there. Wow. Okay, great. I think, unless there's more questions for the forestry people.
Well, I have a question. Well,
Please.
not really a question, just a comment. So do you think that you would be working, well, that is a question, do you think you would be working with Greenpeace then in the future when you reclaim the land when the mining operations are finished?
Well, as we said, we want to build up like a consulting group to assess the environmental impact and as well a resilience plan. So I think we can talk with Greenpeace about that because we also need maybe some more insights from an environmental friendly perspective. So yeah, why not?
Fantastic. The Swedish Society for Nature Conservation. Okay, guys, now can I ask for your opinion?
Okay, so we in Swedish Society for Nature Conservation think that mining often leads to severe environmental problems, and that mining industries is a threat to both nature and human that's living there, and it can also lead to damage of nature value and biodiversity in the area. And mining can also lead to poisonous waste in nature, in both water and the air.
Yes, and moreover, the severe noise, shaking and dust disruptions is a possible issue for the locals, and this might lead to health issues. Also, it might become an unattractive area as such to live in, and our priority is human and environmental health before the material need.
However, okay, so we are not against all kinds of mining per se. We know that we need a lot of the minerals and materials and these REEs for this day society, and especially with the growing population and so on. So we know that we need it for a lot of important products today. We think that mining can be good if it's done the right way, so we're not totally against it. But we think that maybe once you start mining in a small spot, especially since there is already like a mine at that place, it's easy to maybe just expand and expand and expand, except when you don't know exactly where these minerals or material is. So it can be an issue. So we think that this requires maybe changes in current laws and policies.
So here is a need of improvement. Politics and laws must be amended so that recycling of metals and other minerals benefits. Laws need to be reworked, and authorities need more resources and skills. The needs and views of locals must be respected. That's what we think.
Absolutely. Do you think the locals have a good grasp on the natural and environmental problems?
No. But still, they should be respected.
Absolutely, I fully agree with you. They should always be respected. So, but you know, you might find that they have a local pro-mining club there because mining was a tradition there. You might actually support the other side here. But please.
I am the workers' union. So we have some locals in our nice metal workers' union, and we want jobs. Give us a mine.
Yeah, here you go. Here you go.
Me.
But we'll come to you right away in a second. Do we have more questions for this group?
Yeah. What were the concerns previously, and we closed the mining industry, and out of studying what area we developed and trying to reopen this mining again in terms of natural phenomena, preserving nature and all. What development is there, and you want to let the mining industry again work on it?
I think we want to reopen it.
Yeah.
I think we maybe we can reopen it, but maybe we can also see it's for educational, beneficial things. Learn more about how to mine these rare minerals. So maybe we can reopen it, but not dig it deeper and bigger.
So you're basically saying you're not against it, but you don't want it in a cowboy style. Kind of. Would that work for you as well?
Yeah.
If there's strict regulations on how this works?
I think that won't be sufficient to grounds on which they can let the mining industry work on it.
How does the Grängesberg Mining Company feel about all these kind of obligations that you're facing? Your 10% profit margin, how does it do? I can see you sweating over it.
We want to mine the iron and the rare elements, but we want to do it in a sustainable way, and we want to respect the environment as much as we can. So we are open to hear all the claims you have and agree with how to mine those elements in the best way. So we're happy to hear that you have a lot of suggestions.
Very diplomatic. I would like to speak to the accountant of the Grängesberg Mining Company, but that's a different issue right now. Okay, great. I think we can move on. I think I'm pushed to move on. How about you guys, the workers' union? Why don't you bring us your view forward right now?
Okay, we are the Swedish Industrial Workers and Swedish Metal Workers Union. A lot of our points have already been touched upon. We know that we need to have these metals. We know that a mine must exist somewhere. We would rather this mine exist in Sweden itself, because Sweden does have the technology, the infrastructure to oversee and make sure that there is a resiliency plan in place. When you have these mines in other places, sometimes the environmental impact can be much higher. I think Sweden is well equipped to deal with it. But more importantly, we are Swedish and we want jobs. So we want to work here in this mine, and some of us live in the surrounding area, and we want to go to work nearby. We don't want to have to commute very, very far away. So we're quite happy to have a mine in our backyard. Thank you.
Okay, do we have opinions on this view? Anyone? Please.
So your members that live in the local area, how do they feel about their recreational life? Do they think it will be affected by a mine? That it will take away some of the nature around them, or possibly pollute some of the groundwater, possibly lead to health issues for their children that we might not see today, but we might see them 20, 50 years in the future. How do they, as locals, but also as mine workers, feel about those issues?
Precisely. So very importantly, as the labor union, we can work together to make sure that there aren't as many pollution concerns as there could have been. So I think that it's really good to have it in Sweden, where we have oversight, where we can make sure the impact is lessened. But also importantly, this mine was opened in the 90s, so this is not totally, virgin soil, untouched, mature, 150-year-old forest. This is rather new growth, And if we're going to have to put a mine somewhere, this seems like a very good place to put one.
Please.
Both you and the company keep bringing up the point of it's better to have this mine here than to have it someplace else. But as it was said, we have a shortage in these materials, so it seems like this mine will exist both here and there and everywhere where it can exist. So I would really appreciate if this argument was not used to kind of dim this understanding right now. And as the workers' union, wouldn't you prefer to have jobs in a sector that would not potentially harm the water that you're drinking and your children are drinking and the land that your future generations will live in?
So we are the metal workers union. We are not just a general union. So we're very closely tied with the mining industry. We find that Sweden is well equipped and make sure that there are not these long-lasting concerns and that we can put in place the infrastructure necessary to prevent water pollution that will affect our generations.
Your area has been hit by unemployment when the first mine was closed. Are you concerned about facing a huge unemployment after this new mine closes as well? Or what are your plans after the mine that will be established now will not have any more resources to exploit?
Right, so that's always a concern with mining, that eventually they do run dry. But we hope that with this mine being open, because we are a metal workers association, so it's not just about the mining, it's also about the refining and et cetera down the line. So we can start building up that industry in the area as well, which will reduce shipping costs, both environmental and fiscal. And then, when the mine has run out of materials, we can still have those metalworking industries in place, and perhaps our recycling will have improved it by that point, and we can have that in place as well. So we see this as a very positive future outlook for the area.
Last question. Is this really a balanced approach to employment though? Because I've heard somewhere that the mining industry is really dominantly male dominant. What about the women who live in Grängesberg? How are you going to ensure gender equality?
I'm happy you asked that. We are actually a feminist labor union.
So you're going to recruit more women to the mining industry?
Well, if you look at the composition of our current panel, we're very well suited.
How mutually supportive?
Yeah, we will touch upon that in our.
Yeah, all right, because I'm really wondering how you're going to attract women to this industry. But, yeah.
Okay, then I would say we'll continue with you guys, but there was one comment there, please.
Since we are talking about making mining industry more efficient and in terms of technology, that's why probably we halted the industry before, because we could not make it efficient in the beginning. So since you are trying to make it more efficient, you have to rely on technology, sophisticated technology. Once you use the sophisticated technology, hopefully whatever labor workers you have, they will be displaced from their work. And how worker union will deal with the displacement of their workers?
I'm sorry, your question is that because we will have sophisticated technology, our workers will be displaced?
Yeah, right.
I do not understand the line of thought there, I'm sorry. Does anyone else in the panel want to take it?
The technology will replace manual labor.
Oh, I see.
Like how in some mines they're using like huge heavy machinery that are like robots drive them instead of humans driving them.
I see. Well, I mean, as the labor union, of course, we want more employment for human people. So.
What about these other people? Not the human ones.
Oh, non-human people have value as well. No, so I would say that yes, that is a concern for us. We don't want to see humans replaced entirely. That would not be our end goal here. So as a labor union, right, if they try to fire off all of their workers and only employ robots, we will probably picket and protest.
But yeah, wait a second, let me jump in here for a second. I mean, even if there's robots and heavy machinery and all that kind of thing, who's going to service that? Who's going to build that? Who's going to repair that? You will have a need for people there. I mean, every factory, even if there's loads of robots, will need some people. Maybe not as many as in the old days, but I think there will be a need just to clarify this aspect. Okay, time is running and Fran is signaling, so you guys shoot, please.
Yes, so we are SVEGNID, the Industry Association for
are the overarching organization, which includes 40 companies and 13,000 workers. And we want, of course, to have even more to include more than those 13,000. So we have already established the need for more minerals. So we need it. So then the second argument would be, it's not the if we need it, but the how and the where we need it. And our solution would be the Swedish sustainability. First of all, like our association sets up the rules together with our with the 40 companies for responsible mining. So we always, in every mine, we want to see how much ore is there. Is it sustainable to like see the degree of how much ore we can get out before it's not sustainable anymore. Then we are very high on workers' conditions. So safety is important, but also ethical rules. And this is also something we want to implement with our contractors. They have to sign our ethical agreements. We are creating jobs, so that's a very good social aspect. We need more jobs, and especially in these areas where there is a lot of unemployment. And furthermore, we have a lot of partnerships. One of our most valued partnerships is with the Stockholm Environmental Institute, which helps us identify areas and what we can do to limit our impact on the environment. And then furthermore, we're very close in a network for sustainability and other industry organizations such as the steel industry. Now, to get to our point earlier mentioned by Francis, we set up our own organizations for women in mining. This is part of a larger international organization which promotes women coming into the industry. And we try to do that with network meetings, seminars, workshops, and to give this opportunity to women and see, like, to also provide them with role models in this industry. So gender equality is also very important for us. Then furthermore, or an argument mentioned earlier, but which is very important for us as a Swedish Mining Association, is the independency. We don't want to be dependent on China, which produces 99% of our rare earth minerals. Why be dependent on them if we can also do it ourselves? So a very good quote for us is Sweden wants to be the first fossil-free nation in the world. The mining and mineral industry is crucial. The change to fossil-free energy systems, transport, climate-neutral buildings, and increased recycling is dependent on metals and minerals. So that's why we would like to have the Swedish sustainability. Okay.
Thank you very much. Please.
I just have a question. How fossil-free is mining? With all the heavy big machinery, and what fuel are they using and all of that?
Well, of course, we are still developing to limit our impact, but it is something we see as something we have to go towards. Of course, at the moment, there are still some challenges ahead.
I think what was also meant by that was that the rare earth elements are needed for sustainable and renewable energy.
I understand that question. Yeah.
So before we can develop our own fossil-free meat, we have to get the minerals out and then afterwards.
So I guess let me just quickly come in. I guess in the long run, the hope would be that much of these vehicles that drive around in the mine would be electric vehicles, and we have solar panels to get the electricity and things like that. But in order to even get there, we will need the rare earth again. So there's a weird cyclicity in there. It's a bit of a catch-22.
So are you saying that we're mining just to run the mine?
This depends on the accounting from the I don't know if they will make a profit after hearing all this. So, and actually that leads me to the next big interest group. Sorry, yes.
Just have a question very quick. So you had all these programs for women in the industry, which sounds great, but my question economic needs that you will stand in for the population, for the workers. And as we already discussed, we're not really sure if the mine is going to be profitable. So if you have all these feminist programs, which are great, how do they go together?
I love the question, but I'm going to interrupt you if that's okay. Because we're running a little short of time. And to answer part of your issue, we have an investor. Where's the Chinese people? Guys, that's your chance. Bring it in. That's where the money comes from.
Okay, we are from the Chinese embassy. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that Sweden and China, they have a long history in
Good stuff.
So, this mining will bring and will strengthen our relationship because we want to collaborate and invest in this mining sector. You know, we have the expertise because we have been mining these rare elements for a long time. So we have the expertise which we can offer and help the mining company. We have the knowledge and technology. And after they have produced the material, we are also interested to buy because we know, you know that we have so many companies that use these rare earth elements. Without wasting your time, we think that this collaboration and investment of China will benefit both of the countries economically, technologically, and also in research and learning. Thank you so much.
If I was the Grängesberg Mining Company in the last row, I'll send a whole team of accountants to China now. Okay, but we are running a little short of time. As you see, there's so many different facets to this discussion. But we have a few organizations left. So Fran, remind me.
Well, since we've been talking about economics, what about the Swedish Agency for Economic and Regional Growth?
Can we have a statement from you, please?
Yeah. So we, again, we're from the Swedish Agency for Economic and Regional Growth, and one of our biggest or most important goals is to promote regional employment. And as we've heard from other groups here, the potential of this mine for increased employment in the area is something that we see as potentially very good for the region and the local area. And also we see that these resources, both the iron and the rare earth elements, could boost economic growth, both locally and for the nation as a whole. And also, in the case of the rare earth elements, they potentially could spur the development of industries here in Sweden that could utilize these resources and refine them into higher-end products, boosting GDP. And, for example, we have the existing infrastructure already that some groups have mentioned, which will lower the investment cost needed for the project to get up and running. So yeah, in order to not waste more time than this, a lot of the groups have already voiced the opinions that we support as well.
Thank you very much. I got to step over to be Greenpeace member now. So, are you saying you really want to improve technology and industry here in Sweden, knowing that Sweden is the single severe, most bad country in Europe for selling arms to conflict regions?
Well, I think the use of these elements could be used, for example, in computers instead of high-end technical weapons.
Yes, every big missile needs a computer to be steered.
Well, as part of the Swedish government, resources to such uses, or use
No, you want to build them here, as you do with tanks and aeroplanes and all this kind of thing. Sorry, I'm poking you.
Well, other agencies will have to decide on the uses of these elements. So.
I know the problem, I accept what you're saying, but you know, you see the point. Okay, I'm so sorry, we're really pushed for time now.
How will this affect migration? Can we get a statement from the migration?
Yes, migration people, please.
Yeah, of course. We've talked to a lecturer in Uppsala University, Professor Val Troll, nice person, about that we need more than 400 geologists here in Sweden. So we wonder, we're a stressed agency because of the migration flow from the refugees. So we're wondering how that will affect how we will, if that will be a situation where we take in people that are privileged, that are highly educated for these refugees, or if that would be a problem, except for example, with the Chinese embassy and so on. So there might be a problem for us. Yeah.
Quick comments? How about asking Chinese specialists?
Yeah, of course. That could be a great thing. But yeah.
No, I take your point. There will be a need for importing expertise. All the Swedish universities together cannot produce the amount of mining engineers that would be required, particularly if the branch would be expanding. So there is a large influx from other European countries, I would think, but also internationally. So it's not just about Swedish issues. It's actually a global issue, as we have almost all recognized now. We are really on the last few minutes, so who's left?
The Swedish work environment have a statement?
Sorry, you're getting a little bit squished here at the end.
No worries. So, me and my colleague John represent the Swedish Work Environment Authority, and we are here to support our fellow mine workers. We are here for you. Especially to make sure that you have like a good work environment according to the Work Environment Act. And for that, we want to guarantee that you are provided with a healthy, safe, and developing service conditions. And in order to do that, we have some demands. So we are in favor of mining because it will generate like a great amount of jobs, and also because with the uses of technology that embedded in this project, since it's such a specific project, like technology will have to be more sophisticated, which we think will be like safer in terms of like working conditions for our fellow workers. And so John will mention some of our demands to provide this like safe working environment conditions.
So as we mentioned, that infrastructure is already in place at this mine, but lots of this infrastructure is stagnant for 30 years. So we'd want a full and thorough assessment of all of the equipment to make sure that it is fit for purpose, and that all the employment opportunities that are given to this new generation of miners, that they are all up to speed on the latest technologies and safety requirements for them. 30 years on, it will be unlikely that the miners that worked there previously will be returning without some sufficient training. And any migrant labour that comes in, even internationally, needs to be fully aware of all of the regulations in Sweden and the EU. We want to ensure that all of the personal protection equipment is sufficiently in place, and also that the mine will provide long-term health benefits to the workers and consider how much annual leave they get, suitable breaks, health insurance, and good retirement plans, because as we know, mining is one of the more dangerous sectors of industry. So yeah, sufficient things include various help to workers.
Very good. I like that. But I think Grängesberg Mining Company is now pretty desperate to talk to our Chinese friends, because somebody has to pay for all this, particularly at the beginning, because the mine will not make money right away. It will take several years for it to make money. So you see the links now.
And actually, you're required by law to employ a safety officer, and you might need more than one depending on the size of your mining operation. So I don't know where you're going to make a profit.
This is the tough one. You actually the toughest spot.
There's a lot of ore to mine. I mean, 1,700 meters of.
That's what you would hope for, yes.
We are very optimistic.
You need a mother lode that will never stop delivering. So. Okay.
So we've heard from a whole bunch of different national agencies. Now we'd like to go and look at the local people. What does the municipality have to say about this project?
Good question. We've had a lot of very good back and forth arguments. As the municipality, we see that the mine would provide us with very good opportunities. Over the years, people have left our municipality, and we're actually decreasing in the amount of population. There's also a high rate of unemployment. So in that sense, we are for the mine as it will provide us with opportunities. And hopefully the tax revenues from the mine could actually contribute to our local community. However, we are very concerned about a lot of aspects of the mine, especially maybe with the collaboration with China. How will that affect? Will you actually employ the local population, or with all this outside expertise? Will you actually employ the Ludvika people, or will you just bring in workforce from elsewhere? We're also very happy that you raised the point of safe jobs, because we want to make sure that if the mine starts, it's not just safe for our workers, but it's also safe for our local population living around it. Both in the terms we don't want it to interfere too much with our natural beautiful forests and the surrounding area. We don't want to see that people be forced to relocate from houses where they lived for generations, but also ensure that no contamination goes into drinking water and all those different aspects that people really raised. We would prefer seeing an underground mine. We know that maybe you haven't explored the site well enough yet to see, but we see that that would probably be more beneficial than an open pit mine from our point of view. And if there was to start mining again, we would need some sort of contract written up, ensuring that you will actually restore the site afterwards, and that it will not just keep growing and growing and growing, that there will be certain limitations put in place. Thank you.
I think we've covered all groups now. Thank you very much for all your hard work and opinions and views. Very much appreciated. We are out of time. I would like to ask you to first of all sign up for the list for the field trip, and I made a very simple scheme here. Open the mind, yes or no. When you leave, just take a pen here and make a line for yes or no, and I'll count them, and Francis will send an email around to see what the verdict is. But yes, please.
Are we like voting really or facetiously as our role?
I would actually like you to vote as you. So I appreciate that you are in a role now, and maybe some of you are really good method actors. You haven't taken your role inside, but I would like to have your honest opinion, and after this discussion, after having heard all the arguments, vote with your conscience. So would that be okay? Fantastic. So let us know how you feel, and you have heard a lot of arguments, pro and cons, and then we'll see what you come up with, and we'll have more opportunity to discuss this tomorrow during the field trip. So hopefully most of you will come, and we can take it a little further. But as you see, there is no simple answer to this. Yes, please.
You remind me what time we're going to be up on?
It's 7:30 in the morning, but you can sleep on the bus for the morning. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Oh, no.